There are 16 World Championship Grand Prix, but to Britain, with its magnificent motor racing tradition, this really is the big one, the Marlborough British Grand Prix. And that's why, as ever, a mammoth crowd of knowledgeable enthusiasts are here at Silverstone today. Here at the world's fastest Grand Prix circuit to revel in a unique atmosphere at the halfway stage of the 1985 championship, which is still wide open with 6 different drivers and 5 different constructors having won this year's 7 events. 6 very different drivers, ranging from the ebullient Finn Keke Rosberg to the deep-thinking young Brazilian Ayrton Senna. What do they think of Silverstone, their rivals, and their chances today?
There's obviously a lot of full throttle stuff in Silverstone, so you don't have I mean, nobody has fuel consumption problems anymore if they're sensible enough to run the right power what it takes to finish the race. It depends then on what sort of display system they have, how well they're informed about it, but fuel is not a problem. Too much power might be a problem.
I think the Williams and Keke is a very good chance to win, but I think my car is very good. The ending of my car is very good. We have a big problem. I think everybody has a big problem about the fuel consumption. So I think at the moment it's a little bit unrealistic to do a prognostic, but we are in a good shape anyway. We have to save a little bit of everything, tires, gearbox and fuel.
I have no idea who is going to win. I hope we can do well. Certainly Silverstone is a very high speed track, so it's very important to have a quick car on the straights and on the fast corners.
I think the most important things here is the corners are like a straight lane. That's the only problem for us, because we have a very high speed corners and it's very difficult to drive for 1.5 hours very, very quick.
Well, here the most important thing here is to have a very good balance in the car. If you have a perfect ball in the car, you can win the race. But if anything goes wrong, so a little bit understeer, oversteer, you wear the tires and nothing can do it. The most important thing is make the car perfect to here, and after that to do a good race.
Well, Silverstone I think is one of the best circuits at the moment in Formula One, because he has good fast corners where you can make your car going quicker through. It's very nice. I mean, I like it. About the winner, I think I'm going to win this race.
Well, we'll see, but there are other likely winners today, especially world champion Niki Lauda, second fastest in the warm-up this morning, and Ferrari's Stefan Johansson. And what of the British drivers? James Hunt won in 1977 and John Watson in 1981. So, mathematically, we're due for a national victor, but chances look slim. Derek Warwick's got car problems, and although Nigel Mansell's in an excellent 5th place on the starting grid, it's only 2 weeks since he crashed at over 200 miles an hour in France.
I can remember too much about the accident. For me, I wish I didn't remember anything, but I know medically that that's a bad thing. So, you know, that's why I've been able to be past fit for this weekend, because I can remember, I think, almost down to the last 2 or 3 seconds exactly what happened.
Nigel, we've had 6 different winners already this season. Who can win the championship, and can it be your team?
I would say yes, absolutely. Keke's riding high. He won Detroit, came second in Ricard, and it's got to be a good bet for today. But I hope it's going to be 7 different winners by today, and hopefully that 7th one will be my first.
Derek, it's a long time since we've had a British victory to cheer, and the Silverstone crowd would love to see you win your first Grand Prix here. Is there a chance?
I mean, there's always a chance, you know. I mean, we're not that uncompetitive that we can't, if a few things go right, come through and win. But realistically, I think it's going to be very, very difficult to beat people like Rosberg, Prost, Alboreto. Is going to be almost impossible for us at the moment. But, you know, I'm looking today to really run for the rostrum, and if I can sit on the rostrum this afternoon, I should be very happy.
It's going to be a very fast, very demanding and fuel-hungry British Grand Prix. And there's the reason. The 2.93 mile Silverstone circuit. It's flat. The slowest corner is taken at 125 miles an hour. there is a 200-mile-an-hour approach to the Woodcote chicane, and the Silverstone circuit requires more full throttle running than any other Grand Prix circuit in the world. Now, the bad news. I have to tell you that a thunderstorm is forecast for 3 o'clock this afternoon, half an hour into the race. If that happens, it's going to make it more than exciting, because there's going to be the problem over coming in to change from slick dry weather tyres to treaded wet weather tyres. Now, this is the 8th of this year's 16 Grand Prix, and it's close at the top of the Drivers' World Championship, with Ferrari's Michele Alboreto just 5 points ahead of a tie for second between Elio De Angelis and Alain Prost. But after 2 superb drives in Detroit and France, Keke Rosberg's up to 4th, followed by Ferrari's new driver, Stefan Johansson, Patrick Tambay, and double world champion Nelson Piquet. In the equally important Constructors' Championship, Ferrari lead the JPS Lotus, Marlboro McLaren and Williams teams ahead of Renault and Brabham, with Keke Rosberg Williams in pole position on the starting grid after qualifying with a fastest ever Grand Prix circuit lap at over 160 miles an hour. Nelson Piquet, Brabham, second. Alain Prost, McLaren, third. Ayrton Senna, Lotus, fourth. Nigel Mansell, Williams, a superb fifth. And Alboreto, Ferrari, sixth. World champion Niki Lauda qualified badly again, only 10th, but ahead of Derek Warwick's Renault in 12th place. Britain's other 2 drivers are 20th and 24th, Martin Brundle in his Turbo Tyrrell and Jonathan Palmer in the Zaxby. And there is Keke Rosberg, looking calm, cool and collected as ever, talking on the left to Patrick Head and smoking to the disapproval of Frank Williams, his team owner, no doubt. And Patrick Head, the car designer, has, after a lot of application and changes, produced an absolutely magnificent car in the Williams Honda. It's got the Honda turbocharged 6-cylinder V6 engine in it, and in race trim it'll be producing over 800 horsepower. And there is no better a driver than Keke Rosberg to handle a car like that. He has the most incredibly quick reflexes. Nelson Piquet back at the top, thanks, those of you who watch the French Grand Prix will have no doubt, to the fact that the Pirelli tyres have finally come good after endless efforts, and Piquet justified his faith in the Italian product in France by winning very, very convincingly indeed, and look where he is now. Second on the grid, 5th fastest in the warm-up this morning, when that was half an hour's running on race tyres with full tanks. And there's Alain Prost. Now this is the danger man. He's third on the grid, but he was fastest by a long way in the warm-up, the half-hour warm-up today. As ever, McLaren, with their V6 turbo tag engines, have devoted themselves to getting the race trim right of the car. Not worrying too much about practice, but getting high enough off the grid to make sure that Prost is in a challenging position when the lights go to green. And that's exactly what's happened. And we saw the results of that today when, as I said, Alain Prost was commandingly fastest in warm-up, and even more significantly, his teammate Niki Lauda, who's only 10th on the grid, was second fastest in the warm-up. There is the reigning and 3 times world champion Niki Lauda, who, to put it mildly, is hungry for success. He's only got 3 points from 1 finish in this year's 7 Grand Prix. He has retired in all the others. Ayrton Senna, one of the very fastest men on the course in Grand Prix racing today, 4th on the grid. He won in Portugal. He's had the most appalling luck ever since then, because he failed to finish in 6 races. In Brazil, where he was 3rd, at San Marino, where he was actually leading, at Monaco, where he was leading, Detroit, Canada, and then Detroit, and France. And so he's down in the World Championship, way below where he should be. Nigel Mansell, now this is marvellous news because he's in 5th position on the grid after, as I said earlier on, the fastest ever accident in a Grand Prix car in the history of Grand Prix racing at the Paul Ricard circuit, when Mansell went off at over 200 miles an hour, stopped dead in less than 5 seconds, and was very severely concussed. But he's been home to his home atmosphere in Port Erin in the Isle of Man. I was talking to someone who played 2 rounds of golf with him this week and was very conclusively beaten by Nigel, who is a magnificent golfer. So Nigel is in excellent shape, and so is James Hunt.
Yes, certainly. It's a lovely day. This is the first British Grand Prix I can remember for some years where we're not all steaming hot and in the middle of a heat wave. But all is well. A lot of excitement and interest rests around Nelson Piquet, of course, who won the French Grand Prix the last time out, a fortnight ago. And on the Pirelli tyres, they now seem at last to have got a good competitive tyre together. Piquet was 2nd quickest in practice. He was 5th quickest in the warm-up this morning in race trim and on race rubber, and it looks like Nelson Piquet, the twice world champion, is back in form. Alain Prost, of course, was quickest in the warm-up this morning. He's 2nd quickest in practice and is in, 3rd quickest. Prost is 3rd on the grid. And as usual, the McLarens look to be in extremely good form. Lauda was 2nd quickest this morning in the warm-up, just behind Alain Prost. And although he didn't qualify very well, we're going to have to watch for Lauda in the early laps because he's coming from 10th on the grid, and we hope to see a charge. That 1 minute signal has gone. Engines are now being fired up. They're ready to do the parade lap, or the pace lap, when they go around slowly, gently, paced by the pole man, Keke Rosberg, who in fact is in the spare car. He had trouble this morning in the warm-up with his race car. And in just a moment, they've got 30 seconds to go. They'll get a green flag, and Keke will then lead them round for 1 lap that they'll use to warm up the tyres. They, of course, come back onto the grid, engines still running, and as soon as all the grid has formed up in position, the starter, Derek Ongaro, will put on the red light, and then 4 or 5 seconds later, we'll get the green. There we are. Green flag as they go away. De Angelis had a bit of a shunt this morning in his Lotus when he was tripped up by Martini, who we've seen at a few races this year, like a mobile chicane, tripping up the quicker drivers. But I understand that they managed to put a new corner on the suspension of his car.
And Martin Brundle is still on the grid. Martin Brundle, the British driver, in 20th position on the grid when everybody got away, is still on it while the rest of them are making their way around the circuit. And that means to say that he's getting away now, but he will have to form up at the back of the grid, and let us hope that Martin, who is obviously a bit worked up at the moment, having failed to get away, will remember that. I remember when John Watson failed to do that once, and my goodness, he paid the penalty.
That's right. If you don't go away in formation, you are obliged to pull up at the back. And as Murray says, it's down to Martin himself to remember the rules, because if he tries to regain his rightful grid position, he will be penalised. So now we're going round Stowe Corner, very fast bit of the circuit. At over 160 miles an hour. This day, Silverstone really is very fast with these cars now. They're getting up to just on 200 miles an hour on the straights, and they're getting pretty frighteningly fast around the corners. To average 160, you've got to be going pretty quickly around the corner. Some of the drivers are taking the chicane now in 4th gear, which is something like 130, 140 miles an hour for a little right, left, right wiggle. Now coming round Abbey curve, which is taking completely flat out. You see the cars weaving about. They're trying to get a little bit of heat into the tyres. It's quite a cool day, so they'll want to get their tyres nice and warm for the start. Then up the final straight under the bridge, and then braking down. Now Rosberg, you see nearest the camera, who's slowing it right down, and he's doing that so he doesn't have to sit on the grid too long. He wants the field to bunch up behind him, because these cars, a little practice start for Keke there, but these cars, you see, they don't have the chicane there for the start, obviously, because the grid goes right round Woodcote Corner. But Rosberg doesn't want to sit on the grid too long, because remember, they need air through the radiators, they need to move, there are no fans on these cars, and of course the drivers keep them in gear, and the clutch starts to overheat if you leave it in gear with your foot on the clutch too long, because of a little bit of drag. So here come the field into position. As soon as they're all stopped and all those yellow flags are down, the starter will put on the red light.
And I'm glad to tell you that Martin Brundle knows his rules and is staying at the back of the grid. 66 laps, 193.5 miles. We're going to be very, very lucky if it does not rain in the hour and a quarter, 20 minutes or so that this race will take. Right up alongside, a brilliant start, taking the lead by passing Alain Prost and Keke Rosberg. One of the finest from, and off goes, well, I can't see who it is, but it's one of the Ferraris is off. It's Johansson off on the very first lap, and one of the Renaults was off. It was Patrick Tambay.
Yes, that's Tambay's right front corner has completely disappeared, so that's a very short British Grand Prix for Johansson and Tambay. And we also, I noticed, and Rosberg challenging, but Senna holds on into Stowe Corner, short squirt down to Club Corner. Niki Lauda, incidentally, was very slow away from the grid and is almost last. He didn't seem to get the car moving properly, and so watch, there is Lauda on, using all the road quite near the back, and Lauda, I would think, will be undergoing a big adrenaline charge now, so watch for Niki.
And Nigel Mansell is in 3rd position behind Ayrton Senna, the leader, lap 1. Keke Rosberg in 2nd position, Mansell is 3rd, Prost is 4th, De Cesar is 5th, BK 6th, Alvaretto 7th, De Angelis 8th, Derek Warwick in 9th position, and there is Niki Lauda going through the chicane, or was, as you see, Warwick far be well up, and the race very much on now, and that was one of the finest starts I have ever seen in Grand Prix racing. Ayrton Senna and Prost going, nearly losing the car as he goes round the right-hander there, but Senna came up from his position on the grid, and another car slowing down on the right-hand side of the hangar straight. It looks like one of the Ligiers, but Senna leads, Rosberg 2nd, Mansell 3rd, Prost 4th, De Cesar is 5th, Piquet in 6th position, De Angelis has gone up to 7th, ahead of Alvaretto in 8th place, and Rosberg is trying to get up alongside Ayrton Senna. Now, in the half-hour warm-up this morning, Senna had all sorts of problems, but comparatively minor ones with his JPS Lotus, with its Renault engine, and he's coming now through into the chicane on the 2nd lap. They've got them ironed out, and very quickly indeed. Senna is leading, Rosberg 2nd, Mansell goes through 3rd, Prost is catching De Cesaris, who is 4th, Piquet is still in 6th position, with De Angelis 7th, Johansson is 8th, and Warwick is catching Johansson. We've got the makings of a very exciting British Grand Prix as De Cesaris runs wide on the corner, and you can see how Senna and Rosberg are pulling away from Mansell 3rd. There is De Cesaris 4th, Prost 5th. So De Cesaris is doing extremely well, and Alvaretto has now got Derek Warwick right behind him. Hanger straight. 185 miles an hour. Senna, Rosberg, Mansell, De Cesaris. goes through, and in the background you will see the Ferrari on the left of Stefan Johansson, and you see Patrick Torbé's car coasting up alongside him with the right front wheel missing, and another car going off in the background. But now, back with the race, Senna with Rosberg right behind him. Don't forget the fuel is going to be a problem. It's a crippling pace that Senna and Rosberg are setting. Are their engines going to be able to last on the 220 litres of fuel that they're allowed? They are not allowed to refuel. We are expecting them to come in for tyre changes, even if it doesn't rain, because most of the competitors on Goodyear tyres are on C compound, which is fairly soft. The Pirelli users tend to be using a harder compound, which could give Nelson Piquet, for instance, a charge and a benefit at the end of the race. Now, end of lap 4 coming up, Senna and Rosberg. And this is a 135-mile-an-hour stretch, believe it or not. From now here, it's down the straight to Cox at 160 in 4th gear. Down to 4th gear now to Cox, 135 miles an hour. Now towards Maggots, the sweeping left-hander, which leads down to Beckett's, which is the slowest corner on the course, 125 miles an hour. 3rd gear, Senna leads, Rosberg second.
Yes, Rosberg looks to be in very good form. He's in second place, but I get the feeling that if he can get past Ayrton Senna, when he can get clean air onto those wings around these very fast corners where the wings really matter and really work, I think he will be able to go away. But overtaking here is very tricky. He'll need a mistake from Senna, and Senna is now experienced enough that he's not going to willingly provide him with that chance. But the man of the race at the moment so far is Andrea de Cesaris, who is running in 4th place, and he's got ahead of Prost. He was quick in the warm-up this morning, and Rosberg goes a little bit wide. He missed his turn into the chicane, and you see how much ground he's lost as a result. However, I don't think it'll take him long to make it up again, but a small mistake by Rosberg, not an important one.
Let's now, while the race is on, look at the start again from the helicopter. And you see Senna taking the lead at the first right-hander at Cox. You see behind it the red and white Marlboro. Now look and see what happens to the Ferrari of Stefan Johansson and the yellow Renault. There is the Renault of Torbé going off the course. He's already driving off the course, and there is Johansson's Ferrari. Now, we still haven't been able to work out exactly what happened, but presumably it was a coming together of the two. Either way, they are both out, and we're back on lap 6, and it's still Senna leading, Rosberg second. But, in case you missed it, Andrea de Cesaris in the Ligier on its Pirelli tyres is up into 3rd place. Mansell is in 4th place. Alain Prost is in 5th position. So Prost is slipping down through the field, as is his teammate Niki Lauda, and so things are not at the moment looking good for the Marlboro McLaren cars.
Yes, and Lauda is putting on a storming drive, because from starting almost last, he had trouble getting away. He's now up to 9th place, and Lauda is definitely the man to watch. He's storming through the field.
And there's the man he's chasing. Ayrton Senna, who has had, that's checking Rosberg, but Ayrton Senna has had such appalling luck this season. He, like several others in this race, really deserves a win. He won in Portugal in that appalling wet weather. He's had 3 pole positions this year. He's had 6 front row of the starting grid positions, and now this is the battle for 3rd. In the blue Ligier, higher than he's been this season, Italian Andrea de Cesaris. 4th is Alain Prost with his titanium skid plate striking sparks from the bump on the Hangar Straight. 5th behind him is Nigel Mansell. So there's a right royal battle going on for 3rd place between the Renault-powered Ligier, the TAG-powered McLaren, and the Honda-powered Williams, all of them V6s. Nigel Mansell is in 4th position. Jonathan Palmer going out of the race. Derek Warwick is in 10th position. Jonathan Palmer is in 17th place, and Martin Brundle is 18th.
And for those of you who are wondering, it's quite all right. His steering wheel did not come away in his hand while he was driving. It is not the reason for his retirement. They are detachable because, as you can see just by looking at the cars, they're pretty difficult to get in and out of, and it makes it a lot easier if there's no steering wheel in the way. Now, these two have already pulled close to 10 seconds on the fight for third place, and there we are. Rosberg has posted the fastest lap so far, but I'm quite sure as the fuel loads come down, so will the times, because remember, the cars are over 50% heavier when they're full of fuel than by the time they finish the race when they've drunk most of it. But Nigel Mansell looked to be in a bit of trouble. He was in third place. He's now dropped back to fifth and looks to be struggling to hold on to the battle behind. So, something like 10 seconds before the next lot come through, and as Prost having a little look at De Cesaris, look at this again, and this is certainly a very encouraging performance by Andrea De Cesaris, and also for the Ligier team.
And for the record, that 1 minute 13.4 lap of Keke Rosberg's is a new lap record. It's about a second faster than Alain Prost's 1983 lap record in a Renault. But as James said, they're going to be going a lot quicker as the fuel load lightens and the race speed increases. Keke Rosberg there, still in second position. And we're keeping a very weather eye on the sky because the clouds are lowering, they're getting darker, and Alain Prost is charging towards Andrea De Cesaris, still behind his gearbox, still in fourth position, but pulling away, as you can see, from Nigel Mansell's fifth. Both the Williams Hondas then are still in the top 5. 9 points for a win in the World Championship. 2.6 for second. 4 for third. Is Prost going to try and take De Cesaris going into the chicane? He not only tries, but he does it.
That was a fine overtaking manoeuvre by Alain Prost, because De Cesaris was not making it easy for him. He was entirely fair, but Prost really had to stay off the brakes for longer than he wanted to, and he could only get alongside. So Prost moves up into third place.
Yes, he is. Let's look at it again as Prost comes under the bridge, moves to the right, and is alongside Andrea De Cesaris' Ligier, so that the Italian was unable to close the door. Prost had got the right line into the chicane, and De Cesaris has to tuck in behind the wing of the Marlboro McLaren. But hats off to the Ligier team, because with the advent of Gérard Larousse, ex-Renault, and Michel Tétu, ex-Renault, and a mammoth budget which has been engineered by Guy Ligier, they're getting their cars really right.
And despite the fact that the clouds look quite high, we are actually now getting some spots of rain. Now, the weather people forecast a thunderstorm for around 3 o'clock. It's only 1:45 now, but it would appear that the unsettled weather may well play a major factor in this race in the long run.
And Ayrton Senna, on his 11th lap, as we look at him, has already lapped Stefan Beloff in the only car in this race and in Grand Prix racing that is powered with one of the great Ford Cosworth DFP engines, which won 155 Grand Prix. Martin Brundle is driving the other Tyrrell, a Tyrrell Renault, and is in 16th place at the present moment. And now the danger man, in the other sense of the word, Martini, who took off Elio De Angelis this morning in the warm-up, as a result of which the right rear corner of Elio De Angelis's JPS Lotus was destroyed and had to be rebuilt before the race started. And I do believe I see the tyres starting to glisten. By the way, De Angelis is in 6th position, and at the end of the 11th lap, the race order is Ayrton Senna leading. Rosberg there is in 2nd place. In 3rd place is Alain Prost in the McLaren. 4th is De Cesaris. 5th is Mansell. 6th De Angelis. 7th Piquet. 8th Lauda. 9th Alboreto. 10th Warwick, 11th Berger, 12th Cheever, 13th Sura, 14th Lafitte, 15th Lutsen, 16th Brundle, and then Patrese, Winkelhock, Martini and Beloff, and Martini and Beloff have already been lapped. There is De Angelis being chased by Piquet. De Angelis in the black and gold JPS Lotus in 6th position. Behind him, Nelson Piquet 7th, and behind Piquet, the world champion, Niki Lauda, number 1, who has still only scored 3 World Championship points this year for his 4th place in San Marino. New lap record then, Prost. Prost is the fastest man on the circuit.
Yes, the clear air, Prost getting into 3rd place, gave him clear air on his wings, and he's now ready to go, and it's quite clear that the McLaren's in tremendous form. Niki Lauda, there's Alan Prost, just going into Cox Corner after the pits, and chasing the leading 2, and he's got Keke Rosberg's rear wing in sight. But it's quite clear the McLarens are in good form. Lauda, who, if you remember, we didn't see it on your screen, but we saw it from our commentary position, had made a complete bog of the start. Obviously, we don't know why, and was just about last away. But Lauda is up into 8th place and challenging the battle between De Angelis and Piquet to get through. See the sparks coming from Prost's car. That's just skid plates. When the car bottoms, they put titanium plates, and that sparking is quite harmless and expected. As the fuel load lightens, the car probably won't be hitting the ground like that.
Ayrton Senna's just coming through to complete his 13th lap, and I'm going to take the gap between himself and Prost. There's no doubt, as James says, that Prost is catching Rosberg, but is he catching Ayrton Senna? Well, at the present moment, the gap is 10.5 seconds, 10.49 seconds between Ayrton Senna in the JPS Lotus, the man you're looking at now, and Alain Prost, who is in 3rd position, and the 2 of them are sandwiching 2nd place man Keke Rosberg, who won in Detroit and was 2nd in France.
And as they came past us, Niki Lauda has overtaken Nelson Piquet, which moves him up to 7th place, and Elio De Angelis is going into the pits very, very slowly with a dead engine. So it looks like there is De Angelis. It looks like the end of the day's work for Elio.
Elio De Angelis sadly being pushed in, ending his wonderful reliability record, because he had scored points in every Grand Prix before this one this year, as his teammate Ayrton Senna finishes now that lap. Now the gap, you will recall, between Senna and Prost on the previous lap was 10.5 seconds, and the gap between Senna and Prost now is 10 seconds. So Prost has taken half a second out of Senna's lead. That may not sound very much, but there are still 51 laps left to go.
And Keke Rosberg appears to be slowing down, and that doesn't come as a total surprise, because the Williams team, I understand, gambled on the softest compound of tyre, and it wouldn't surprise me, and another new lap record for Prost there, and he's got Rosberg very much in his sights now. But Rosberg went for the softer tyre, and it may just be that it's not standing up to it, to the bashing they're getting out there, as well as the Williams team had hoped. And I suspect, although they were hoping that the soft compound tyre would do the race, but I think we may well see Rosberg in the pits in a little while for maybe a new set of rubber.
Alain Prost, winner of the British Grand Prix in 1983 in a Renault, coming up to catch Keke Rosberg, and is he catching Ayrton Senna in the process? It was 10.5 seconds, then it was 10 seconds, and the gap now, as Prost goes into Cox, is 9.4 seconds. So Prost is not only catching Rosberg there, but he's also also catching the leader, and the order of this, the 16th lap out of 66, Senna leading, Rosberg second, Prost is third, De Cesaris is fourth, Mansell is fifth, Lauda is now in the World Championship scoring sixth position, Nelson Piquet is seventh, Alboreto is eighth, Warwick is ninth, Berger is 10th, Lafitte is 11th, Cheever is 12th, Martin Brundle is in 15th place. And it's not going to be very long now before there is a new second place man. Watch car number 2, the red and white McLaren of Prost.
Well, the interesting thing is going to be, well, Prost having a look down the inside, and he's made it. I was going to say that we might be having a repeat of the French Grand Prix when the prodigious straight line speed of the Williams Honda made it terribly difficult to pass. But Prost has done it really at the first attempt. He's got inside Rosberg, breaks him into the chicane, and progresses on his journey to chase Senna almost unmolested.
With now, I would estimate a gap of about 9 seconds, maybe less. But Ayrton Senna is not going to give up lightly. He'll know exactly what the score is. Now here is Alain Prost's replay, taking Keke Rosberg as they come up to the chicane. Rosberg actually appeared to move over and let Prost through. He could have held the line, but he didn't. And I think that Keke Rosberg has decided that he's not in the fastest car on the course, and he's going to soldier on and not try and block Alain Prost. They were both complimenting each other on their driving manners in that marvellous last lap of the French Grand Prix, when Keke Rosberg went storming through and took second place from Rosberg on the last lap. Rosberg could have blocked him, I suppose, but he made no effort to, and Rosberg went up to him afterwards and thanked him. And here is the race leader, Ayrton Senna. He's already lapped the Ram there, and he's closing up on Riccardo Patrese, the Italian in the Alfa Romeo, and Nigel Mansell is coming into the pits.
Now, it'll be interesting to see what they do with Mansell, because, as I said, the Williams team gambled on the soft tyres, and I think there's a good chance that he's going to change his tyres and maybe go on to the intermediate compound instead of the very soft. Here's Mansell coming down to his pit. And meanwhile, out on the circuit, Prost is going quicker and quicker and quicker. Another lap record for Alain Prost. The times, as we imagined they would, are coming down and down as the cars get lighter, because it really does make a critical difference and a measurable difference. So Prost lapping at over 147 miles an hour now, and he is definitely closing on Ayrton Senna. And Mansell looks to have more trouble than tyre trouble. They've got the engine cover off, which means, and they're turning the back wheel. I would suspect he's got some sort of transmission problem, because they were fiddling around the gearbox and drivetrain area of the car. So it looks a little bit terminal, or at least end of the serious day. And there is a very smoky blow-up in the background.
It looks like Eddie Cheever's Alfa Romeo, but we'll take confirmation on that. But of course it means that 1 minute 11.6 seconds lap of Prost at 147.4 miles an hour is getting close to a 150 mile an hour lap record at Silverstone. And now Niki Lauda is at it, 111.59, 111.59, just about the same to a tenth of a second as hit the time of Alain Prost. And the race order on now lap 20 out of 66 in the British Grand Prix, round 8 of the World Championship. Senna leads by 7.5 seconds now. Prost there is catching him second. This is Niki Lauda in 5th place. Third is Keke Rosberg. Fourth is De Cesaris. 6th behind Lauda is Nelson Piquet. 7th is Alboreto. 8th is Derek Warwick. And you can see that Lauda is gaining hand over fist now on the Renault-powered Blue Ligier of Italian Andrea De Cesaris, who is in 4th place. And it looks as though McLaren, who have been out of the top results for a little while, because the Brabham won in France, the Williams won in Detroit, the Ferrari won in Montreal, and the last win for McLaren was at Monaco, and we got so used to seeing them win everywhere last year. 7 wins for Prost, 6 wins for Niki Lauda, who, in spite of winning less races than Prost, won the World Championship. And now McLaren are back in the hunt. And there's the hunter, world champion Niki Lauda, 3 times. 1975, 1977, 1984. Soon, I think, to be 3rd. And in the pits, Barry Gill is with Nigel Mansell. Well, he may be in the pits, but we can't raise them, and Prost there is now getting closer and closer with Keke Rosberg still going in 3rd position. Now, there's Lauda. Lauda catching Andrea De Cesaris in 4th position.
I'm watching the gap for Niki Lauda, who at the moment is some 24 seconds behind Ayrton Senna. And I think the important thing is going to be Lauda's gap to the leader, because he and teammate Alain Prost are clearly the 2 quickest cars on the circuit at the moment. And ultimately, and there goes Lauda. Just passing
going into Kopp's corner. Rosberg is in trouble. I think Rosberg has blown up. There was a telltale puff of smoke from Keke Rosberg's Williams. Rosberg, as he went into Kopp's corner, and I suspect that Keke Rosberg is out of the British Grand Prix at Kopp's corner. And that means to say, if that is so, that Andrian and now Lauda is past De Cesaris. And while we wait for confirmation on the Rosberg situation, it looks as though Niki Lauda is now in 3rd position, with De Cesaris in 4th place. The race led by Ayrton Senna, now 8.3 seconds ahead of Alain Prost. So Senna has got the message, and Prost is not at the present moment closing up on Ayrton Senna, the race leader. But the drama now is that both Williams are definitely out of the British Grand Prix. Keke Rosberg, the first man to do a lap of a Grand Prix circuit at over 160 miles an hour, has blown either the engine or the turbo of the Williams Honda, and is now sadly on his way back to the pits to report to Frank Williams, while the rest on lap 23 go on their way. And now we can have Barry Gill talking to Nigel Mansell.
Nigel, it doesn't seem to be a very good day for the Cannon Williams team. First of all, what happened to you?
Well, basically, I had a big vibration on the back of the car, and then going down the straight when Nicky was catching me, the revs jumped up on the clock, and basically the clutch was slipping very badly. Vibration got worse, and if you don't stop, you'll just blow the back end of the car apart, so I had to come in the pits.
Very unlucky, Nigel, after all the efforts you made to be in this race.
Yeah, very disappointed, because I'd picked the harder tyre, and the Goodyear tyre people have just told me that I'd picked the choice right, because they were starting to slow down on the front and I was keep going.
Nigel, bad luck, but it was good to see you here. Thanks for talking to us. Back to you, Murray.
Well, as you see Ayrton Senna there going round Cox, Alain Prost is within 4.5 seconds of him. Alain Prost is coming up through the tail enders as we look at Mark Sura. There is Ayrton Senna, and Alain Prost is getting to within sighting distance of the black JPS Lotus Renault. Watch for the red and white car coming round. There it is. Now, the car in the lead coming towards you is the leader, Ayrton Senna. The red and white car, who's got to lap the arrows, and Martin Brundle in the Tyrrell Renault. Number 2 there is Alain Prost in second position, and he has dramatically closed the gap with Rosberg having gone out to about 4 seconds between himself and Ayrton Senna. And I remind you that out of this race already have gone Patrick Tambay, Stefan Johansson, Jonathan Palmer in the Zach Speed, Elio De Angelis, Nigel Mansell, Rosberg and Alio.
Well, I've just been looking at the clouds. The weathermen said now, 3 o'clock, for thunderstorms and such like. It's got a little bit darker, but the clouds still look quite high at the moment, so it doesn't look as if we're going to get a cloudburst immediately, but we are in stormy weather and it could brew up pretty quickly. And I'm quite sure that the drivers will be taking a lot of interest in the visor. That's the first sign you get that it's raining. You see it splashing on your visor, and I'm quite sure that experienced drivers like Prost and Ayrton Senna will be not only looking at their visor, they'll be looking at the clouds and keeping themselves well ready for the rain.
And if the race does have to be stopped, it's reached a point now where they would normally restart it and declare the race in the end on the aggregate time of the 2 parts, and the second part would run whatever distance was necessary to make up the full race distance of 66 laps. However, that's academic. Here is Senna going through. That is Prost in the red and white McLaren, who's got ahead of one of the arrows, and the gap is 4.8 seconds. It's a little less than shown there because I've just worked it out as they went through, and Niki Lauda is indeed in 3rd place. So the Marlboro McLarens are 1st and 3rd. That is Prost in 2nd place. The Marlboro McLarens are 2nd and 3rd. My apologies to Ayrton Senna. Andrea De Cesaris is still 4th, Piquet 5th, Alboreto 6th, and Warwick is 7th now.
And I said a few laps ago that we should keep an eye on the gap between Niki Lauda and Ayrton Senna, and the gaps remain pretty static. It was some 24 seconds then, and it still is now. Of course, it can be a little bit distorted by traffic because the leaders are now in amongst the back markers, so the leader gets held up first, then he gets clear, and somebody else gets held up afterwards. But we will keep reporting to you on that gap. And it does look as if the race has settled down pretty much. Prost, although he's catching Senna, or when he has a clear run he does, he's not catching him very fast or very much, so I don't anticipate. You see, he's in sight, but he's been for some time. Now, Prost is the second of these 2 cars, so he can see Senna on the circuit, but they're pretty evenly matched, and so is Lauda behind them.
And you'll notice as we watch the Brabham of Mark Sura, who is in 10th place, being lapped by the 2nd place man Alain Prost, that we haven't said much about Michele Alboreto, who is, after all, leading the World Championship in the Ferrari. Well, he's in 6th position as Senna comes down the Hangar Straight at close on 185 miles an hour. Prost now in 2nd place with nothing except the course between him and the race leader, and Senna is coming up to Gerhard Berger's arrows. That's the buff and brown car there. Gerhard Berger, the Austrian driver, who, if anything, is quicker in the Arrows team. And there is Alboreto. Alboreto, the World Championship leader, is in 6th position, some 52 seconds behind Ayrton Senna, but only about 3 or 4 seconds behind Nelson Piquet, who is in 5th place.
It's interesting, the Ferrari situation. They were going very, very well early in the year, got enough to put Michele Alboreto into the lead of the World Championship. But over the last couple of races, they seem to have lost their way a little bit. They did a very strange thing for a team of their experience and professionalism in the French Grand Prix by turning up to a Grand Prix to do some testing. They arrived with a new front suspension, which was not a success, and they seem to have lost their way ever since then. They got rid of it after the Friday practice in France, put the car back to the old specification, but they never, from that moment on, they really seem to have been a little bit in the wilderness, and this is being shown by Alboreto's form here. He's He's been quick, but he's never really been fully competitive, and he's clearly struggling a bit now. However, don't count Alboreto out of the race yet. Remember, Ferraris probably have the best reliability record in the business, and the chances are that he will be there at the end, even if he's not very quick, and will be able to pick up a few places as other people retire.
So watch Alboreto catching Piquet and listen to Barry Gill talking to Keke Rosberg.
Keke, a very disappointing race after such a magnificent practice. What happened?
Yes, in the beginning I was able to hang on to Senna, but then if I would have kept his speed, I would have been destroying my tires. So it was better to sort of run my own pace, and everything was looking good, and then I think a turbo or something like that failed.
But very disappointing after two such good races.
Had to happen one day.
Keke, thanks for talking to us. Back to you, Murray.
Keke Rosberg is such an incredibly pragmatic realist. It doesn't matter whether he wins or retires, he takes it all in his stride. And now Prost is taking this in his stride. 1 minute 10.9, another lap record, and the speed is going up and up, 148.8 miles an hour, as Alain Prost, number 2 in the Marlboro McLaren, strains to catch the race leader Ayrton Senna, and Alboreto has now gone up into 5th place ahead of Nelson Piquet, as we'll see as they complete this lap, I'm sure. Prost going through. There's Senna. Now you can see the gap for yourself as Prost has yet to catch and take Gerhard Berger. Niki Lauda is still 3rd. De Cesaris is still 4th. Up to 5th has gone Alboreto, and Piquet has gone down to 6th position. Derek Warwick is 7th. Lafitte is 8th. And the leaders have lapped everybody up to Jacques Lafitte, the 8th place man, and we're waiting for the rain with trepidation. I was talking to a couple of Australian friends this morning who could not believe that it could be so bright and sunny as it was, and yet possibly rain in the afternoon. And I said, well, I fear you may soon see, and I fear that Ayrton Senna is soon going to have, I fear from his point of view, Alain Prost on his gearbox, because Senna's got to take a couple of tail-enders now. And there we are, 148.85 miles an hour as Prost comes through to complete lap 30, and lap 33 is the half-distance lap, and the gap between Senna now as he goes into a new lap and Prost is down to 2.2 seconds. And Senna has got in front of him Jacques Lafitte in the Ligier and Derek Warwick in the Renault to lap them.
Yes, a very uncomfortable moment for Senna. He's come up on a gaggle of 3 slower cars just when he didn't need to, because Prost is now beginning to loom in his mirrors. You get quite a good view in the mirrors of a Grand Prix car. It's pretty much like your own road car at home and driving on the normal road. So Senna will, every time he glances in his mirrors, will have a nasty, unpleasant experience. Dear, oh dear. And really, they should have let Senna go, and that's brought Prost right up to them.
Yes, Senna got past Warwick, but Lafitte was watching Warwick and I don't think saw Senna, and so there is the Brazilian. And now is he going to get past Lafitte into the chicane? If he does, it'll get, yes, and he takes his opportunity. Lovely bit of passing, and that's given him a break, a small break, ahead of Alain Prost, who is still behind Lafitte, but not for very much longer, because he's going to take him before he gets to Copse, and the gap is 1.5 seconds.
Lafitte was a bit busy with his own battle then, but as soon as he saw and realised that it was the leaders lapping him, he let both of them go, got well out of their way. He let Senna through before the chicane. He then waved Prost by as they went out of the chicane, but I was going to say the damage is done, but it's inevitable. And Prost has definitely been catching Senna, and he was going to catch him sooner or later anyway. A little bit of help from the back markers, but that's inevitable. But of course, it's the old story again. He can, one thing to catch him, a much more difficult thing to be able to find a way round. So Prost is within a lap or two now, will be in a position to attack.
And now Senna and Prost just behind him have lapped everybody up to the 6th place man, Nelson Piquet, and they are on their 32nd lap out of 66 as they come into Woodcote, and this is going to be soon Prost's chance.
In the meantime, Nicky Lauda, who you remember is into 3rd place, is holding station with the 2 leaders, but not really making much impression. He's 21 seconds adrift, so he's pulled 3 seconds, but that may well have been caused by the traffic. And remember that, of course, the cars that these two have just lapped, Lauda still has to lap, so he's going to lose a bit of time.
Only 2 of the top 6 in the World Championship are running at the present moment. Those 2 being Michele Alboreto, who is in 5th position, and Alain Prost, who you've been looking at in 2nd place, because out of the race from the top 6 in the World Championship, with Prost getting ever closer to Senna, are De Angelis, Rosberg, Johansson and Tombe. And Alain Prost, the diminutive little Frenchman, who really does not look strong enough to control an 850 horsepower in race trim Formula One car, is driving as ever a magnificently smooth and controlled race. He'll catch Senna, but he's going to have a great deal of difficulty in getting past the Brazilian. And they are now into the 2nd half of the British Grand Prix on a dry circuit, thank heavens.
There's a little bit of fluid coming out of the gearbox, or the breather that hangs over the gearbox on Prost's car. If you watch him out of the corner now, you may just see there was a bit of a puff out. That time it was all right, but round Copse it was puffing a little bit. We'll just have to keep an eye on that, because it is normal for them to make a little bit of puff of fluid, but Prost looks a bit marginal, so we'll just watch to see if he's actually blowing fluid out.
Now let's enjoy this as they come. Senna, young Ayrton Senna, number 12, 25 years old, from Menorca in Brazil, and 30-year-old Alain Prost from Saint-Croix in Switzerland, although he is of course a Frenchman. And this was where Prost nipped through and passed earlier on, not Senna of course, but he's very, very quick on that corner. And Senna has again got the problem, and it's Martini in front of him. I say that with some trepidation, because Martini is famous for not using his mirrors and for taking people off, and Senna makes sure he gets past him pretty darn quick, and Prost does the same thing. I think Martini is trying so hard to see where he's going now that he's wandering about all over the circuit.
That's right, in view of the fact that he limbered up this morning by taking Elio De Angelis off in the warm-up. But funny enough, I think he must be a bit chastised by that, because that's the best he's behaved when being lapped that I've ever seen. He actually noticed the leaders coming up behind him and quite unexpectedly got out of their way. So well done, Martini.
Yes, here, here. And well done, Ayrton Senna and Alain Prost, who are putting on a magnificent show of forceful Formula One Grand Prix driving at Silverstone in front of this enormous crowd. And here is Prost again, coming up to the chicane. He's not close enough there to get past and take Senna, who has completed his 36th lap now.
And of course it's the old aerodynamic problem, that the closer he gets to Senna's car, the more of a vacuum he's going through. If you think about it, the car in front is making a hole in the air, and as he goes through the corners, there isn't enough air on his wings to make them work. So the closer he gets, the less grip his car has. It's a bit of a vicious circle, because he needs to really be within 2 car lengths of Senna coming up to the chicane in order to make a serious challenge. Now, in order to pass, you have to start planning from sometimes even over a lap before. So Prost's plan now will be to get closer and closer. Through Stowe Corner, he's trying to get close. He wants to get close through Cub. He's closer. He's doing... The plan is working so far. But I don't think that the slipstream is going to take him close enough this time as they go under the bridge up to the chicane. It's the closest he's been yet. Well, the slipstream's working. He's having a look. And Senna's shutting the door. Prost trying to get down the inside. And fair duel over who gets into that chicane first over the next few laps. Ayrton Senna is the man who is at the moment the slightly slower car driver combination, but to balance that, he is the man in front, and in Grand Prix cars, that is a big advantage.
Ayrton Senna, as I have said before, has an incredibly cool and mature head on his comparatively young shoulders. After all, he's only 25 years old, but he's been driving for a very, very long time in karts, Formula Ford 2000, Formula 3. Bearing in mind that he's homesick all the time for Brazil and he's living in a foreign environment, he does a fantastic job. And as you see, he's eased away a bit. He's put in a really quick lap there to try and show Alain Prost that he can go faster when he wants to and when he needs to. And there's a very distinct difference in the gap between Senna in the lead as he comes through to complete his 37th lap and Alain Prost behind him. Now, you're not missing anything. Niki Lauda is still in third place. He's 23 seconds behind these two. Andre de Cesaris is still in fourth place in the Ligier, and he's 27 seconds behind Lauda. Michele Alboreto and Piquet are 5th and 6th, and there is a bit of a battle going on there. There's only about a second in it between Alboreto and Piquet for 5th position. Jacques Lafitte, who is 7th, has been lapped. Derek Warwick, who is 8th, of course, has been lapped. Berger is 9th, Sura is 10th, Boutsen is 11th. Martin Brundle is now in 12th position, and I remind you that the 4th British driver, Jonathan Palmer, retired a long time ago. Riccardo Patrese is in 13th place. Piercarlo Martini is 14th. Stefan Beloff is in 15th position. And out of the race, Tombe, Johansson, Palmer, Elio De Angelis, Nigel Mansell, Eddie Cheever, Keke Rosberg, and Elio. Now, Senna has got Piquet and Alboreto and Patrese in front of him. Alboreto and Piquet, and that is Piquet, are battling for 5th and 6th positions. Riccardo Patrese was long ago lapped and is in 13th place. And Riccardo Patrese is the man with whom Piquet had an altercation in Monaco, as a result of which they both went off in one of the most spectacular Grand Prix accidents I've ever seen, and were both perfectly okay. So now Alboreto 5th in the Scarlet Ferrari, Nelson Piquet 6th in the Brabham, have passed Patrese, who is ahead of the race leader Ayrton Senna, who moves to the right of the Alfa Romeo, but Patrese holds the line, and it gives Prost a chance to get ever closer to Ayrton Senna as the Brazilian takes Patrese at just the critical moment to ensure that Prost had to back off a bit, but now Prost is passed, and Ayrton Senna is closing up on the 6th man, Nelson Piquet. They're coming through to complete lap 39 out of 66. Patrese lapped by 4 competitors in 1 lap. Senna into Cox. Alboreto, we're looking at now, the World Championship leader in the Ferrari. Piquet behind him, who won in France in the Brabham. Ayrton Senna, who won in Portugal. Alain Prost, who won at Monaco and Brazil. So you have got 4 Grand Prix winners all together, but separated by nearly 3 miles, because Senna in the yellow helmet is catching to lap 6th place man Piquet in the Brabham BMW, and Piquet's teammate Sura is still running. He's in 10th place.
Be interesting to see if Piquet notices the leaders coming up, because these two are very busy with their own battle. Piquet and Alboreto have been battling for many laps now in a pretty similar situation to the 2 leaders coming up behind. Senna is now looking for a way through, but he's not going to be given it. Senna. I don't think Piquet particularly saw him, but of course, as soon as he came alongside, he made room and realised. But those two, in fact, have been having, in some ways, a better battle, because they've been swapping places, and Piquet did not make room for Prost then.
This is a wonderful opportunity for Ayrton Senna because he's got Piquet. He'll probably get Alboreto in a minute, and they're coming up to lap Stefan Bellof in the Tyrrell. And it looks to me as though Piquet is not going to give way to Alain Prost, and that means to say that Ayrton Senna will be able to pull away. Piquet is still ahead of Prost, and Senna in the yellow helmet dives out from the slipstream of Alboreto's Ferrari, takes the 5th place man, having already taken Piquet the 6th place man. Senna is on lap 41 out of 66. So towards us, Senna leading, Alboreto 5th, Piquet there in 6th position, and Prost in 2nd place. Senna's on his way.
And Prost is going to be looking to do the pair of them into the chicane now if he possibly can. But Piquet's so busy. Oh, Piquet moved over, made room. He let Prost go. And Prost now has only Alboreto to deal with. But in the meantime, as Murray rightly says, Senna is enjoying a bit of a clear run. Here goes Alain Prost. He is through, dispensed with this raging battle for 5th place that's going on, that they've now lapped. And the two leaders now have a clear track in front of them, so a chance for Prost to get back onto Senna's tail. He's not going to be in position this lap to have a go at the chicane, which is his obvious, most sensible passing place, but by the time they come round and complete another lap and a half, I suspect that Prost will be ready to challenge again.
Ayrton Senna deserves to win this race. So does Alain Prost. So does Alboreto, so does Piquet, and so do a lot of others. It's that close in the World Championship at the moment. But Alain Prost has already won 18 Grand Prix, number 2 there, the Frenchman. Senna has won 1. This is only his 2nd year of Grand Prix racing, Senna. And Alain Prost has reduced the gap. It was less than a second. Last lap it was 1.5 seconds. Now it's 1.3 seconds. And virtually a visual close. Out goes Andrea de Cesaris, parks his car alongside the pit wall. So Andrea de Cesaris, who has gone so well in the Ligier and was in 4th position when he retired, and that means to say that Alboreto will now be 4th. And there's Martini doing a little rally cross, practicing, and nearly onto the rumble bars goes Alain Prost, and you can see the gap now between the 1st and 2nd, and between the 2nd, Alain Prost, and the 4th place man now, Michele Alboreto, with Martini and De Cesaris joining the retirements of Alio, Rosberg, Cheever, Mansell, De Angelis, Palmer, Tombe and Johansson, completing lap 43.
Yes, and Prost not nearly close enough this time, but what he will now be doing, he will be concentrating completely on building his speed up behind Senna all the way around the lap, so that he arrives on his tail as they go through Club Corner, which is the one that takes them up through Abbey and onto the chicane. But Prost, as usual, he's fighting for grip, and he's a little bit too far behind. I think Prost is going to struggle to get into a challenging position on this particular lap.
This particular lap of the Marlborough British Grand Prix, lap 44. In the yellow helmet and the black Lotus, Senna leads. In the white helmet and the red and white Marlborough McLaren, Prost is 2nd. Niki Lauda in the 2nd McLaren is 3rd, 27 seconds behind the leader. 4th now is Michele Alboreto. 5th is Nelson Piquet. 6th in the 2nd Ligier is Jacques Lafitte. 7th is Derek Warwick. 8th is Berger. 9th is Sura. 10th is Boutsen. Martin Brundle is now 9th with Patrese 10th. And Stefan Bellof still running in the 2nd DFV powered Tyrrell in 11th place, completing now lap 44. Martin Brundle, by the way, has passed Thierry Boutsen in getting up to that position that I told you he was in, 10th position. He's ahead of Thierry Boutsen in the Arrows. A fine drive by the Englishman in only his 2nd turbocharged Grand Prix. And Senna seems to have control of the situation at the present moment. tyres, of course, are critical. And so also very much, of course, is fuel. All the teams before this race began were very worried about fuel consumption. They are allowed 220 litres, no more, for the full race distance. They're not allowed to refuel. As I said earlier on, the Silverstone Grand Prix is not only the fastest, but of course because of that involves more throttle work and more fuel consumption.
Yes, and in this area, McLarens have what has hitherto been a very big advantage, because they managed to develop, or at least so they claim, a fuel gauge that is very accurate indeed. Now, to explain that a little bit, you have to understand with all the G-forces that go on, it is very difficult. You can't measure the fuel in the tank because it's never sitting still in one place, unlike a normal car that's just driving gently. And therefore it has to be done through computerized measuring of how much fuel has actually physically gone into the engine. Now, McLaren seem to have a big advantage over the others, and Prost, we've seen, run out of petrol several times on the slowing down lap of a race. So they've got it taped. Now, Senna does not enjoy this advantage, and it could be that Prost can just push him into using too much fuel, because as we understand it, or certainly up until very recently, unless the Lotus team have come up with a new system, he hasn't had nearly as accurate information available to him as is available to Alan Prost. There's no doubt that Prost will be able to judge it to within really a litre or two of petrol, whereas Senna doesn't enjoy that advantage. And when it's this close, that can be very critical at the end of the race.
Copse Corner, lap 47. Fourth gear, 135 miles an hour. Now down to the sweeping left-hander at Maggots at 165 miles an hour. Senna, Prost, Lauda, Alboreto, Piquet, Lafitte. Now into Beckett's third gear, 125. The short dash to Chappell, the left-hander, which swings into the very quick hanger straight, which is not actually the fastest part of the course.
And as you saw in that caption just now, the ferocity of the battle for the lead has now started to leave Niki Lauda behind. Ayrton Senna, leading the race in fighting off Alan Prost, is going quicker and quicker and quicker. And as this battle speeds up, Lauda has appeared to be unable to respond and looks as if he's settled for a nice, safe, secure third place.
There is Niki Lauda. Third position, and I wouldn't put it above Alain Prost just to be driving tactically. He's an incredibly cool thinker in the cockpit, and a lot of people wonder what the drivers do apart from driving the car when they're in a Grand Prix like this. The answer is they think very, very hard indeed about race tactics, and Alain Prost will be watching that fuel monitoring equipment of his very carefully indeed. He will be getting pit signals as he goes past the crowded grandstand in front of this massive crowd at Silverstone, and he will be computing in his mind how the fuel is going in relation to the number of laps that are left and the gap that there is between himself and Ayrton Senna, with Niki Lauda third and dropping back 39 seconds. The leaders have lapped everybody up to Lauda. Alboreto is fourth, Piquet is fifth, Lafitte is sixth, Warwick is seventh, Berger is eighth, Sura is ninth, and Brundle is still 10th.
Well, I've just been looking at Ayrton Senna's lap times over the last 8 or so laps, and one of the measures of the skill and quality of a Grand Prix driver is his consistency of lap time, and Senna's lap times have been absolutely immaculate over ever since he had a clear run with no back markers. He's brought them down by about half a tenth of a second a lap, which is staggeringly consistent, and he's now come down to lapping in just over 1 minute 10 seconds, 1 minute 10.05, something like that, but he's reducing the lap time each lap by a little bit. So these two really are going very quickly indeed, and in fact they're just outstripping the field. They've lapped all but third place man Lauda, and they've left him a long way behind now.
13 out of the 26 starters are left on lap 49 with 17 laps to go, including this one. They being Ayrton Senna, there, the leader, Alain Prost second, Lauda third. Only those three are on the 49th lap, because everybody else has been lapped. Everybody else being Alboreto 4th, Piquet 5th, Lafitte 6th, then Derek Warwick 7th, Sura 8th, Berger 9th, Brundle 10th, Boutsen 11th, Patrese in 12th position, and Stefan Beloff 4 laps behind, but still running. And there he is with Senna bobbing out of his slipstream to lap him yet again for the 5th time. And 13 drivers out of the race, the latest of them being Andrea de Cesaris, who was at one time running in a strong 3rd position. And now Senna is actually pulling away from Alain Prost, no doubt about that. Prost isn't going to have any trouble in getting past Beloff.
It's funny, I was just talking about his consistency, and having got down to 1 minute 10.05, Senna has just produced a lap nearly a second quicker, which would explain why Prost is no longer right up his gearbox. So, there's no doubt that Prost didn't go any slower. Now, it may just be a tactical move by Senna. Remember that the drivers can adjust their turbo boost in the cockpit, and I strongly suspect that in order to produce that dramatic an increase in speed, that Senna has actually had a little fiddle with his boost control, but of course in turning it up and producing more power, he uses more petrol.
If Alain Prost finishes in 2nd position, he'll add 6 points to the 26 he's already got, giving him 32, which would mean that Michele Alboreto would still be leading the championship if he finished 4th.
Now we're going to have a very careful listen to Senna's engine as he comes past our position next time on the start-finish line, because his engine sounded a little bit rough then as he went through the chicane. However, that could be that he's turned the boost up, because they do make a different sound. So we'll give it a good listen, because he doesn't look to be slowing down.
You saw him look in his mirrors then as he came out of the corner to see where Prost was. He's closing up on Thierry Boutsen in 11th place in the BMW powered Arrows. The BMW powered cars are going well. They're still in the running. Piquet's in 5th position. Mark Sura is in 8th position. Boutsen is in 11th place, and Gerhard Berger is in 9th place. So the BMW seem to be coping with it tremendously powerful. Now the gap between Senna and Prost is 2.37 seconds. They're on lap 52. They've got 14 laps to go, including this one. Senna, unless Prost has got something in reserve, which I'm beginning to doubt, looks as though he's in control of the race. And he passes Boutsen. No problem there. Any driver that can be passed is going to be a bonus, because that man just might be a problem for the chap behind you to get past, which would enable you to extend your lead. You, in this case, being number 12 there, Ayrton Senna, and it would be the 3rd JPS win this season if he won, because Elio De Angelis has won, don't forget.
Well, having eulogized about the consistency of Senna's lap times, I then told you that he'd just chopped a second off his quickest one very suddenly, and he's now going much slower. So it's very difficult to read a race in this day and age when he's got a boost valve that he can turn up and down. But I suspect that he gave one quick lap to give Prost a bit of a fright, and is now attempting to turn his boost down and conserve fuel. But in fact, Prost, as you saw then as they went through the chicane, is now visibly closer. So whatever Senna's doing, and I suspect it to be tactical, it so far has failed to phase the experienced Prost.
2.7 seconds the gap. Lovely shot of looking down, and it enables you to see just how much of the circuit is between Senna and Prost as they go up, leaving the runway on the right. Prost having got past Boutsen now. That's Martin Brundle coming towards us in the Tyrrell Renault in 10th position. And Ayrton Senna is well on target now for the second Grand Prix win in his short Grand Prix career, and he could have been a lot more if he hadn't had all sorts of niggling separate problems with his car in previous Grand Prix this year. He completes now the 53rd lap, and the gap is 2.9 seconds. Martin Brundle, an impeccable young driver in only his second season of Grand Prix racing, and his first season of real Grand Prix racing in today's turbocharged era, because last year he was in a Tyrrell with a Ford DFE engine. Now, am I wrong? Is Martin Brundle going to move over and let Senna through or not? Martin looking in his mirrors. Senna trying to go first to the left, now to the right, and Senna is, I think, being held up, or was, but Martin moves over. Senna is through. Now Prost has got the problem, because Martin Brundle in the Tyrrell Renault is not all that much slower than the JPS, which has got exactly the same kind of engine in it, a V6 turbocharged Renault. And now Alain Prost in second position ahead of his teammate Niki Lauda, who is a long way behind now in third position, and clearly not able to do anything about it. He's nearly a full lap behind Ayrton Senna, the race leader, and Alain Prost. As Prost comes up to Martin Brundle's gearbox, moves out to the right, Brundle moves over, Senna goes through Cox Corner, and Prost is through up into second position. And we're on lap 55, 66 lap race, 193.5 miles, 13 cars in the running out of the 26 that started. And the question is, can Senna stave off Alain Prost in the British Grand Prix? Michele Alboreto has still got Nelson Piquet behind him in the 6th position, but it doesn't look as though there's going to be a change there. And we've still got the fuel consumption problem to think about, as have, of course, the drivers. Senna is the chap who's potentially the man most likely to be affected, and Senna's engine sounded rough to me again there, James.
Absolutely, I was just going to grab the microphone off Murray to say exactly that. As he went past our commentary position, his engine sounded very rough. However, it seems to be going all right. The car is not visibly slow, and so I can't really hazard a guess as to what's wrong with the engine. In the old days, normally aspirated cars, I would have said it was a broken exhaust, because they always sound horrid, but they still work all right. But in this case, with a turbocharged engine, a broken exhaust means no boost pressure, so it's a bit of a different story. So, as I say, I'm not at all sure what Senna's trouble is, but Prost seems to be closing in a bit.
Well, just as a battle is going on for first place between Senna there and Prost, so a battle is going on for 5th place, and this is it. It is Nelson Piquet in the Brabham, with Michele Alboreto in front of him in 4th place, but jolly Jacques Lafitte, the oldest man in the race, 41 years old. He lives in Stoke Poges, actually, although he's very much a Frenchman, in his French Renault-powered Ligier, is closing up on Nelson Piquet in a season when a lot of people have accused Jacques Lafitte, I think unjustly, of coasting these days, because he's expected to retire at the end of the 1985 season. But Jacques Lafitte, who never bothers too much about qualifying, certainly goes for it in the race when he can smell a chance of success, and he can smell that now. He's in 6th position, which gives him a World Championship point. If he can get ahead of Nelson Piquet, that would make it 2 points. They are both on Pirelli tyres, which is another significant pointer to the fact that the Italian firm is getting really on top of the problem of making the right tyres, not only for qualifying, but also for Grand Prix racing, albeit the first 4 competitors in the race are on Goodyear tyres. So, Piquet double world champion. And Lafitte is now through. Jacques Lafitte is through, and Alain Prost is right up with Senna.
Absolutely right, and look, Senna is in trouble. Senna, a definite loss of power there. You saw Prost go whizzing past, and Senna's engine, which has been sounding rough, we noticed that a few laps ago, still sounding rough, and Prost now takes the lead of the British Grand Prix, passes Ayrton Senna, and we strongly suspect that Senna is in a bit of trouble. He's fighting back, he's not taking it lying down, so it is by no means over yet.
And it's getting to be very interesting in World Championship terms between Prost now leading with a potential 9 points to add to the 26 he's already got, and Michele Alboreto, who's on 3 points for 4th position at the moment, which would give him 34 points in total, and it would mean that Prost would lead the championship by 1 point. But there's a lot of buts in motor racing, and now Prost is going through to complete lap 58. Senna, having been caught and passed through no fault of his in driving terms, because I don't suppose for a moment he missed a gear or anything as simple as that. And now they've got, this is interesting, because they're catching Niki Lauda, who's in 3rd place, and for the first time for a very long time, when Niki Lauda has Sura and Patrese in front of him, the first time for a very long time, the 3rd place man is going to be lapped, and it looks to me as though he may not even be finishing. He is going so slowly. And that will bring Alboreto up, and Senna is going for it. Senna is going for the lead. Senna is going for the lead, and he's got it. Senna has got the lead from Alain Prost, a brilliant bit of passing. Now he's got to get Riccardo Patrese and pass him and lap him again, and he does it. Patrese moves over, and a train, a 2-compartment train of Senna and Prost, who are coming up to complete lap 59 in this 66 lap race, and Prost is going through, or is he? No, Senna holds him off. But they've got Mark Sura in front of them in the Brabham BMW.
This is fantastic stuff. So we thought Senna was sick. Prost having a go now, and he's going to get him. He's got the inside line. And the problem is, I think they do it deliberately to confuse us, Murray, because they've got these the adjustable boost in the cockpit. Now, Senna really does seem to have slowed a bit this time. And this is Senna regaining the lead as they went down into Stowe Corner. Senna gets alongside Prost, goes later onto the brakes, and Senna's inside, and as we subsequently know, Prost has now retaken him going into Cops. So an absolutely ferocious battle for the lead of the British Grand Prix. There is Alain Prost. Whoops. And he's having the door slammed in his face, slapping the back markers. Prost at the back of the group, but he's pulled a fair bit of distance on Ayrton Senna. And of course it's very hard for us to know exactly who's got what sort of problem, because they keep winding their boosts up and down, and I suspect they do it to annoy us.
It's Mark Sura in front of him in the Brabham, but Senna is now going very, very, very slowly down the straight. There he is in the background. Ayrton Senna is slowing, and he's going to stop, I think, and retire. He's going so slowly now in front of the pits. He's got his visor up. Ayrton Senna's race is run. Another bitter pill for the Brazilian, having, as he has in virtually every Grand Prix this year, led only not to finish yet again. And this is going to be the 7th retirement in 8 races, and he walks despondently, downcast, away from the car, onto the pit balcony. And here's Sura still with Prost behind him, and now the interesting thing is that Prost has got Alboreto behind him.
Yes, well, no desperate rush for Alain Prost now. He won't be under any pressure. He will probably have realised that Senna is out and that the main battle is over. But with 5 laps only left, one immediately wonders if Senna maybe just ran his boost too much. Remember I was saying earlier that the fuel gauge or certainly up to a few races ago, the Lotus was not a particularly accurate piece of equipment, and maybe that Senna has misjudged his fuel load. It's only speculation, but I do speculate that Senna might have run out of fuel.
And you've got the import, I'm sure, of the fact that Alboreto being there, because Niki Lauda is now out. Prost there is leading, and we're waiting now, and there's an enormous gap between the first and second place men. With in second place Michele Alboreto, in third place is Jacques Lafitte, in fourth place now is Nelson Piquet, so that potential World Championship situation I gave you has already been changed, because Michele Alboreto is up into second place. By the way, Elio De Angelis has rejoined the race. We thought he'd gone in to retire, but they've obviously, and you see two stricken cars there, the Lotus of Ayrton Senna and the Ligier of Andrea De Cesaris parked against the pit wall. But now lap 63 in this 66 lap race, and you're looking at the race leader Alain Prost, who is on his way now, number 2, to his 19th Grand Prix win. A quite incredible performance. It's only his 81st Grand Prix win, and in terms of percentages of wins to Grand Prix drives, this puts Alain Prost right up amongst the very top Grand Prix drivers of all time, with 7 second places, 5 thirds, 12 fastest laps. He's at the present moment got 232.5 Grand Prix points. And he's going to come up now and underneath the bridge into the chicane to complete his 63rd lap. 3 laps to go for Alain Prost now. And there's Derek Warwick ahead of Alain Prost. Derek Warwick in the yellow and blue Renault, the second of these two cars. The first of them is Elio De Angelis. Derek Warwick is in the points now. He's in 5th position.
And my surmise earlier that Senna had run out of fuel, I apologise to him and to the Lotus team. Apparently, we just heard from the pits that he had engine trouble. We don't specify what, but I presume it wasn't the trouble caused by having no petrol. We heard the engine go off for a few laps before. It was misfiring and making a bit of a funny noise, so that is not a surprise. So Senna was beaten by engine trouble, and that was most unfortunate, because we really had a magnificent battle for the lead, and it's a great shame that it should be resolved in such a way that Senna doesn't even get any points for it.
Indeed it is. Here is the man who is going to get the points if he just keeps going as he is for another 2 laps. Alain Prost exits the chicane, crosses the line, completes his 64th lap, starts his 65th and last lap but 1, and he's lapped everybody that is left in the race. Michele Alboreto 2nd, Jacques Lafitte 3rd, Nelson Piquet in 4th position in the Brabham BMW. So it's a McLaren leading, a Ferrari 2nd, a Ligier 3rd, a Brabham in 4th position, a Renault in 5th in the hands of Derek Warwick, and Mark Surer on his way to scoring his first World Championship points since he joined the Brabham team, with Gerhard Berger in 7th position. His teammate Boutsen is now out of the race. Martin Brundle, still going strong, although he's been lapped twice, is in 8th position, the leader. Well, it's all over bar the shouting for the quiet, imperturbable, cheerful little Frenchman that they call the Professor, because he's so dedicated to his craft of Grand Prix racing, which he has got to by way of being European kart champion, junior world kart champion, Formula Renault champion of France, and now he's on his last lap. From Formula Renault he went to Formula 3 to become the Formula 3 champion of Europe. Then he joined Formula 1, and And the checkered flag is waving at this point now. So to our consternation, it looks as though the British Grand Prix is being finished on the 65th lap, but whatever. Alain Prost is the winner from Michele Alboreto in the Ferrari in second position, Jacques Lafitte in third place, Nelson Piquet fourth, Mark Surer fifth, and Derek Warwick in sixth position. Martin Brundle just missing the World Championship points by coming home in seventh position. All that very much subject to official confirmation. And Mark Surer now in the Brabham closes right up onto the rear wheels and gearbox of Alain Prost's Marlboro McLaren. Prost goes into the chicane. This is his 19th victory. And Derek Warwick is slowing as he comes up to the line. Derek Warwick is just staggering across the line with his elbows out. Heaven knows why. It looks to me as though he wants his backside off the seat, and I'm really guessing that he's sitting in petrol. This is an extreme guess, but I've never seen a driver finishing like this before. Derek Warwick clearly very unhappy about something, but subject to official confirmation. And what is the problem with Derek Warwick? Let's see if we can see the back. Well, it's difficult to tell, but whatever. Derek Warwick stops by John Gentry, his team manager, and looking down at the Renault. He's out of the car, of course. It may be that he dislikes the car so much that he just can't wait to get out of it, and that's perfectly true. Derek Warwick, not at all a happy man in the Renault team. Alain Prost, the winner of the British Grand Prix of 1985. And you see those cars being parked at the line. There's Jacques Lafitte parked around the circuit. Let's have a look at those cars parked by the line. That's De Cesaris's car, which retired long ago. But Nelson Piquet has stopped on the line. That's Senna's car parked behind him, which, as you well know, retired. Derek Warwick has stopped on the line, and it's now struck me, of course, that the reason they're stopping immediately is because they are so worried about fuel consumption and their car's weight, because the cars must not weigh less than 540 kilograms when they finish the race. And Alain Prost had a bitter experience of that when he thought he had won the San Marino Grand Prix, only to have his car disqualified because it was 2 kilograms underweight. And that's a dreadful thing to happen to you when you've driven all through a Grand Prix. Victory for Alain Prost.
We're just speculating. We're looking now at the start-finish line where it's all cordoned off, ready to receive Alain Prost and do the winning, the victory ceremony, and he hasn't pitched up. So I strongly suspect that Prost might have run out of fuel somewhere around the back of the circuit.
And we've just had flashed onto our screen here the information that Martin Brundle is in 6th position. Prost the winner, Alboreto second, Lafitte third, Piquet fourth, Surer fifth, and a magnificent single point for British driver Martin Brundle in only his second race in the Renault-powered turbocharged Tyrrell. But there is some doubt about several of the positions here. As we expected, all was chaos at the end because of this big problem over fuel consumption and cars running out on the last line, running out on the line. There you see De Cesaris's car being pushed away. There you see one of the it's Manfred Winkelhock's Ram. And this has been a quite astounding race in terms of retirements and car mortality. That is Boutsen's Arrows. Gerhard Berger actually finished the race unofficially in 8th position, and it looks as though my excitement over Martin Brundle may have been misguided, because I've just been given a corrected result, which is still not official, indicating that Surer has finished in 6th place. And that was the Renault you just saw of Patrick Tambay. We are, of course, evaluating the situation and working out the World Championship points for you on the assumption that Alain Prost there has certainly won. His car is still yet to be scrutineered and weighed. That Alboreto is second, and if that is the case, Alain Prost will have 35 points and Alboreto will have 37 points in the World Championship, meaning of course that Alboreto is still leading. Prost will stay in second place, but clear of Elio De Angelis, who was second and failed to finish in the points certainly in this race. Jacques Lafitte in third position, Nelson Piquet in fourth place. In fifth position, Derek Warwick out of the car like a jackrabbit as soon as he crossed the line. In sixth position, Mark Sura. Seventh, just missing that World Championship point, Martin Brundle. In eighth place, Gerhard Berger. In ninth position, Riccardo Patrese. And those are the only 9 out of the 26 to complete the race. Alain Prost, the fastest lap, 1 minute 9.88 seconds. Unlike some classes of motor racing, you do not in Grand Prix Formula 1 racing get an extra point for the fastest lap. But it means to say that Alain Prost, who started this race as lap record holder in a Renault, finishes it as the new lap record holder in a McLaren, some 5 seconds faster than his previous lap record. On the transporter there, in the red overalls with the blue cap, you saw Michele Alboreto. Well, here is the World Championship now, and as I surmised, Michele Alboreto, the Ferrari driver, still leads. Alain Prost now by only 2 points. Elio De Angelis, who was in second position, moves down to third, but 9 points behind Prost and 11 behind Alboreto. Keke Rosberg, who was fourth before, is still fourth, but as you can see, the gap is increasing because Rosberg failed to finish, as did Johansson, who is in fifth place. Nelson Piquet got 3 points for his fourth position, which has closed the gap a bit between himself and Johansson, and Piquet's in sixth position. Patrick Tambay in seventh place, Senna 8th, Boutsen 9th, Jacques Lafitte in 10th position. But now the World Championship at the moment anyway, with De Angelis showing a propensity to finish rather than win, is very much between Michele Alboreto, the Ferrari man, and Alain Prost. And there is the professor, sometimes called Napoleon. Look at his nose. Alain Prost, looking, as he may well do, very happy indeed. Michele Alboreto on the left always tends to look a bit lugubrious. He's in fact a very happy, cheerful man. And it's His Royal Highness the Duke of Kent who is presenting the awards. Round goes the laurel wreath. Michele Alboreto, yet another second place, because he finished second in Brazil, second in Portugal, second in Monaco, and has been amazingly consistent. And whoops, steady chaps, that's a very valuable cup. Where is Jacques Lafitte, I wonder, on the presentation podium? The answer is not on the presentation podium. Well, Alain Prost has shown yet again that he is one of the most complete, if not the most complete, Grand Prix drivers of the age. It's as the Marseillaise plays, Alain Prost and Alboreto remove their caps.